Hey, and welcome to Open, the show opening the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Brittany Aubain covering for Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, we'll discuss the importance of having health related conversations with loved ones this Thanksgiving season. Afterwards, with the holiday season coming up, we'll provide you with tips for becoming a savvy spender. Then we'll talk about how the American College of Surgeons calls for more Americans to take advantage of life-saving lung cancer screenings. Finally, we'll learn how the upcoming congestion pricing could potentially help the city's cycling community. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Aubain, and you are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers to the Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on MNN's channels. You can stay connected to us on all social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Some things have been going on throughout this past week, and we'll take you through it with some Bronx updates. We're starting off with local news. Community leaders met to discuss the increasing number of domestic violence cases in the Bronx. Our BronxNet reporter, Kibin Aline, has the story.
Purple means love. Purple means I got the victory. Purple means that I am not a victim, but I am a victor of my circumstance.
Gathering at Bronxboro Hall, community members wore purple to support Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Bronxboro President Vanessa L. Gibson and elected leaders discussed the growing epidemic of domestic violence plaguing the Bronx.
The Bronx has some of the highest numbers of domestic violence incidents and homicides in our county. And so I want all of you to think about the families we serve.
The Violence Intervention Program is one of many organizations committed to ending DV in New York City. Now serving communities of all backgrounds, VIP initially focused on providing resources for Latinas who found it hard to end the cycle of violence due to language barriers.
One of the biggest issues that we've seen with clients getting help, especially from the government or like law enforcement, is that if there's not a translator there and they don't speak English, a lot of things can get misconstrued.
Hoping to mitigate this issue, VIP provides several resources and a hotline where those affected by DV can call in for assistance.
We provide resources like financial counseling, housing counseling, and with the hotline, honestly, aside from it just being the first step to enter our program, we hope it's just providing some hope that survivors know they're not alone.
VP Gibson ensures Domestic Violence Awareness Month remains an ongoing effort with their 31 Days of Action plan, all aimed towards breaking the silence attached to domestic violence.
I thank you all for joining us as we launch our month-long activism against domestic violence awareness campaign. This is an initiative that we started just last year where we are recognizing October to a month of events, trainings, and social media centered around bringing visibility to survivors.
To stay up to date with the month-long campaign, visit the BP's social media at the link below. Reporting for BronxNet, Kibin Ali.
Thanks, Kibin. In other news, the Bronx Collab is organizing its third annual Big Bronx Give Back event. Our BronxNet reporter, Kyrie Moody, has more details.
It's back to school season, and the Bronx Collab is making sure our children have a successful school year by hosting their annual Big BX Give Back.
Today, we're at our third annual Big BX Give Back. What we do is we wrap our arms around the block. We offer pantry, clothing, resources, and of course, back-to-school supplies for our young people.
Kelly Campos is a first-time attendee of the event. She also is a parent with limited funds and says that this event was necessary for her and her family.
I'm in love with today's event. I'm so happy that the community is coming together for the kids. This is something great. I am, right now doing not too well financially, so this is great help for me and my family, and I'm just happy to be here.
It's important to support our children and push them to better themselves through education. We got a chance to speak with 2 students about the Big Give Back.
This is very kind and generous, and my mom is just getting the book back so I can have something before I get my actual book bag, and I feel amazing.
Some people don't have school supplies, so they give them school supplies.
Although it's been a fun summer, these children are ready to get back to the books. Reporting for BronxNet, I'm Kyrie Mooney.
Thanks, Kyrie. In education news, Bard High School Early College has recently inaugurated its first branch right here in the Bronx. This new establishment seeks to provide students with a challenging academic curriculum, preparing them for college-level studies. Our BronxNet reporter Jonathan Calixto was there with more.
With a presence over 9 sites, Bard High School Early College welcomes its first location in the Bronx with the ribbon-cutting ceremony ahead of the inaugural school year.
This school here in the Bronx, I think, is a particular landmark. This is historic. The students who are looking for accelerated learning opportunities, who are looking for early college opportunities, who are looking to earn an associate's degree, even while they are in high school, now they don't have to get on a bus and a subway for an hour, 2 hours to go somewhere else. They don't have to go to another borough. They can stay right here in the Bronx.
In partnership with Montefiore Einstein, this new location will introduce students to biomedical science and research, as well as career pathway programs. President of Bard College and alum of the Bronx Public School System, Leon Botstein, shares the impact it will have on the community.
What it will do is also help Montefiore and Einstein and the Bronx have enough public health and health professionals to serve the community.
It's important to have providers who reflect the population.
As a Senior Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, Dr. Lynn Holden is excited to see students turn into future leaders, potentially of health and science.
Those who reflect the population have a different understanding of the culture of the people that we're serving.
For the inaugural principal, Siska Brutsart, stepping into this role is a natural evolution from her long history in education.
I was a full-time teacher for 5 years, and then I moved into to become part of the administrative team at Bard High School Early College Manhattan, where I was for 10 years, for a total of 15 years. And so it's been a dream and just actually amazing that this is finally happening.
For incoming 9th grade student Kevin Mendoza, being accepted into Bard meant he could avoid long commutes to a school in Queens.
It would take me about 45 minutes to an hour to get there, but I heard that they were opening a Bard in the Bronx, and I decided to apply. It was about 15 minutes away, and it would arguably be a better school than the Catholic school in Queens.
125 students from 9th and 11th grade will be welcomed on September 7th as part of the first class of Bard High School Early College. Reporting for BronxNet, Jonathan Calixto.
Thanks, Jonathan. That's all for the Bronx updates. We have to take a quick break, but we'll have more open when we return.
One of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history at Post nightclub in Orlando.
Walking into the building for the first time after the shooting, it was crippling, but it had to be preserved. If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
Hey, boss. Okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
You sure?
I said I'm fine.
Since I was little, it was only like me and my parents.
You think you created family out of characters?
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna take that and make it into a song.
Me the bed,
it. Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it. In my head, in my head, in my head. Where you at, on the way, yeah. In my head, in my head, in my head.
Hey, son.
Hey, Pop.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
So as a technical sergeant, E6.
I served in Vietnam in 1969.
I am a U.S. Army veteran.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Of course.
Yes.
Try to always be there for each other.
I do my best reaching out to my brothers and sisters in arms.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
It's always tough, right?
I can't say that I have. I mean,
If you don't have someone to kind of help you guide those thoughts, it can be really bad.
eventually, you just can't deal with it on your own.
I guess it's a part of the military too, right? Service before self.
It was drilled in, service before self.
And you start to question, maybe people would be better off without me, When you realize that you're not alone, once you take that first step, there's so much support.
Welcome back. As we approach Thanksgiving, individuals should explore a crucial topic, which is the significance of having open and honest conversations about your family's health history during the holiday season. Joining us to talk about the importance of initiating health conversations at your holiday gathering is breast cancer survivor Ashley Dedmon and Senior Vice President of Medical Services at Myriad Genetics, Susan Manley. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Brittany.
So Susan, Thanksgiving is often a time for families to come together. So why is it so crucial, for individuals to understand their family's history of cancer?
Well, the holidays are an opportunity to talk about family history and medical health history. Families share DNA or genes, and some of these genes are linked to important inherited medical conditions such as risk for cancer. So knowing that your family history has people who've had breast cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, or ovarian cancer means that your risk for these cancers is increased, and it may qualify you for a genetic test that would tell you even more precisely what your risks for those cancers are.
Ashley, would you mind sharing your breast cancer journey with our viewers?
Absolutely, Brittany. So breast cancer impacted 3 generations of women in my family. My mother was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer and is unfortunately no longer with us. Shortly after she passed away, my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I was 21 at the time when all of this happened, and I was very fearful and afraid about what my future looked like. And so I reached out to my OBGYN and I updated her on my family history because that can change at any time. And I went in and we had genetic counseling and genetic testing. And at the age of 21, I found out that I carried the BRCA2 gene mutation, which means that I'm at a higher risk for breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and have an elevated risk for other cancers. And beginning at that time, I began risk management, which really looked like for about 10 years, I did increase surveillance. And at the age of 31, after those 10 years, I had a preventative double mastectomy to reduce my risk of breast cancer. And so knowing that I have this gene, it really changed my standard of care, and it really provided me a blueprint to be able to proactively reduce my risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you tell me, when you're in this appointment, right, and you're being told like you have a high risk for these cancers, and unfortunately one cancer that affected 3 generations of your family, can you tell me what was your initial reaction? What were some of those highs and lows and those emotional challenges that you faced?
Initially, it was a shock because, again, I just lost my mother and then my father was diagnosed. So I was still grieving. I was still grieving, and then I went from helping my dad care for her to now caring from him. I was graduating from college, and so just so many different feelings and emotions. But I think one thing that was constant was I had this knowledge that I have this mutation, and so I really could not let fear take control anymore. And so I had to move forward with faith in knowing that this information that I have was going to be able to help reduce my risk, and I believe has helped to save my life. And so it definitely wasn't easy, definitely a lot of highs and lows. And I'm still on this journey. As now that I've had a mastectomy, I'm now aggressively monitoring my ovarian health. And I have 2 girls now who are very young that I'm educating them about their family history and my risk and their potential risk. And so the emotions and the physical and the mental impact is one that's ongoing. But I think one thing that has kept me grounded is knowing that I'm making these decisions based on facts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually wanted to ask you about that. You're saying that now you're educating your daughters. Were you educated as a child or maybe as a teenager? Was this a conversation that you had as a family, or is this something that you kind of had to navigate on your own?
That's a great question. It was, I think I grew up early on where, what happens in this home stays in this home. And I'm very blessed that my parents, both of them are educators. They were very open and we talked about everything. And so it was really that shift from my parents' generation who really began to have the conversations. But it was not only those conversations, but it was also being able to, when I talked with my doctor, being able to go on to the Myriad website and receive more information to really help combine what I've learned from my family with the science and the knowledge to be able to guide me forward. So it was definitely multiple things.
And speaking of Myriad, Susan, can you walk us through the process of genetic hereditary cancer testing?
Sure. So the first step is knowing your medical history and your family's medical history. Take that information to your doctor because this type of genetic test is ordered by a healthcare professional like a physician or a genetic counselor. Having those red flags in your family history of types of cancer like breast cancer, colon cancer, ovarian cancer will qualify you for genetic testing, make you a good candidate for genetic testing, and it's likely that insurance will cover the cost of genetic testing as well. The process is a simple collection of either blood or saliva, and then in our laboratory, the MyRisk test looks for a number of genes that are linked to increased risk for cancer. And then with the test result, you work with your healthcare provider to create a personalized plan, and that can include increased screenings and things to mitigate your risk so that you detect cancer early if it occurs or you prevent it altogether.
Of course. And the Myriad Genetics Cancer Risk Survey found that 20% of women don't talk about health issues in their family. So once again this season, how can we encourage people to overcome this barrier and start important conversations about their family's health history and cancer risk?
Education is key. As we're gathering for the holidays, we find out that first point of education from our family members. So as we're talking and we're listening, we know that some conversations may be a little easier than others, and every family dynamic is different. But I think what is really important is the information that you walk away from and being able to share that with your doctors and being able to share that with your children and your grandchildren so that everyone is able to have the information that they need to be able to guide and inform future health decisions.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important part here is you knowing and then you being able to share that information as you mentioned. So Susan, if you can just elaborate a little bit more on the testing, how does it help individuals and clinicians assess their risk? And afterwards, what are the following steps?
So as we've discussed with the genetic test results, that may qualify you for increased screening or different types of screening. So for example, for breast cancer, increasing the frequency of mammograms or being eligible for a different kind of screening, which includes MRI. And so having that elevated cancer risk that is found by a genetic test result can qualify you for different kinds of interventions. And for colon cancer, increasing colonoscopies, and for ovarian cancer, the opportunity to take oral contraceptives to reduce that ovarian cancer risk. There's a variety of different steps that can be taken depending upon the genetic test results and the risks for cancer afterwards. And everybody makes a different decision based on their preferences, their experience with cancer, and their own health journeys.
That's amazing. As we wrap up, Susan, can you tell us where we can get more information?
Sure. At our website at myriad.com/knowyourhistory, we have some tools on there that talk about the importance of family health history and a family tree that can be used to gather that information.
This was a very educational, informative topic, so I want to thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you,
Brittany.
For more information, you can visit the website at myriad.com/knowyourhistory. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about poor Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug. You know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
Welcome back. It's that time again. We've entered the holiday season and preparation has begun. You know, some people are particularly excited about buying gifts for family and friends and planning for all the holiday parties. But we want to make sure your holiday spending is paying off. So here to help us understand how we can spend smarter and even get some cash back this holiday season is lifestyle and travel expert Sherita Janielle Rankins. Sherita, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to get into this topic. I have already been starting my holiday shopping, but it is going to put a dent in the bank account. So to start off, you know, it's a time everybody's making their shopping list. So can you share some tips on how to become a savvy spender during the holiday season?
Of course, as you said, if spending does increase over the holidays. So I think it's all about planning, getting creative, and understanding the best way to use your credit card rewards so your money can work for you. If you want to think about new ways of entertaining, maybe ditch that traditional big meal and have a potluck instead. Host a white elephant party where your friends and family can bring small yet meaningful gifts to exchange. Enjoy your neighborhood light show, and you can always donate and volunteer this holiday season. It's a great way to give back.
You know, I like how you mentioned make your money work for you, right? So credit card rewards can be a great way to do that. So could you explain how individuals can take advantage of credit card rewards this holiday season and what benefits do these rewards typically offer?
Of course, yes. You want to make sure that your credit cards have some kind of special offers or benefits that can offer you cash back on your everyday purchases. The Chase Freedom Flex Card members, they have a bonus spending category every quarter. And this season, you get 5% cash back from wholesale stores, from select charities, and from PayPal. So if you're stocking up for your holiday parties, doing some holiday donating, and also just doing your online shopping and you choose PayPal as your checkout method, you can earn 5% cash back up to $1,500 spent. So the Chase Freedom Flex is kind of going to have you cash backing while you're spending.
That's amazing. And so during the holidays, travel is a significant part of the season. I've done it, I have family do it. So, what advice do you have for maximizing travel related spending, such as flights and accommodations, and using those credit card rewards or other strategies?
I think about the way of traveling as a way, whether you're doing a road trip or you're flying, it's about having everything that you need. So I like to stock up on your travel related snacks and your drugstore purchases before you leave, or also once you've reached your destination, stopping at a grocery store before you go to the hotel. This kind of cuts back on that hunger spending, and you also will have everything at your disposal. And with the Chase Freedom Flex card and Unlimited card, you not only get a $200 welcome bonus, but also 5% cash back at grocery stores and gas stations for all those road trips. And that's up to $12,000 in your first year of spending. And this is on top of your already everyday cash back bonus rewards. And these do not expire as long as your account is open.
That is so awesome to hear. So, apart from holiday gift shopping, what are some common expenses during the holiday season that, we often overlook, and how can credit card rewards help offset these costs?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of holiday expenses. I think we think about also the gift cards that we purchase. And with the Chase Freedom Flex Unlimited or Student or Rise card, you can get 15% off of gift card purchases as well. This is for Chase's month of more. And this is all throughout the month of November. So I think ways to just use your card on an everyday basis can really offset, and you'll get these cashback bonuses that can help with future spending.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your experience, what are some of these, maybe more frivolous side of spending during the holiday season that we don't necessarily think about?
Well, I try to stick to a budget and stay on track. So when it comes to holiday spending, I try to stay pretty much tight because I don't want to wake up in January and feel like, oh my goodness, I've thrown myself off for the year. So I think it's about budgeting and also just making sure that you've allotted the amount of money that you're going to spend and you actually stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition to cashback rewards, what are other benefits that credit cards may offer, and how can consumers take advantage of these perks when buying gifts for friends and families?
I mean, a lot of credit cards also offer warranty and other protections, but for the list of everything that the Chase Freedom cards offer, you can go to chase.com/freedom for all the information for cash back and extra benefits as well.
And so beyond the holiday season, right? Because like we keep saying, we're gonna spend a lot in these next 2.5 months, and then wake up in January and it's like, oh man, I got to start replenishing again. So beyond the holiday season, how can individuals continue to benefit from credit card rewards and cash back, and what everyday expenses can these rewards help with?
Well, as I said, the Chase Freedom Card, these spending categories change every season. So right now it's wholesale and charities, but come January in the first quarter, there'll be other spending categories. So making sure you check to see which categories are going to give you the most, and you can target that for your 5% cash back every season, and make sure that you're actually using these rewards and using this card on a regular basis to maximize your rewards.
And for individuals who may not have a rewards card yet, could you explain the process of opening a Chase Freedom Unlimited or Freedom Flex cashback credit card and the potential advantages of doing so?
I would say that if you go to chase.com/freedom and fill out an application, all the information will be there, and they can learn all about the policies, rewards, and everything that Chase has to offer.
And so this is a really fun question that I love to ask is, what are some common misconceptions or mistakes that people make when it comes to using credit card rewards, and how can they avoid these pitfalls?
Well, I think the biggest mistake is not understanding which card that has the best rewards at the time. If you have a travel card, using those for your travel rewards. If you have a grocery store card, that make sure that they give you the maximum cash back on those. So you want to make sure that you're using your card in the areas where the rewards are maximized, and not necessarily just using a card blanket across every category, because then this way you're losing out on the maximum rewards that are allotted for every single category that are actually highlighted in that particular season or quarter.
For somebody who might not be as financially savvy, sometimes when it comes to opening a credit card, they are very hesitant in doing so, especially people of more of a younger generation that they don't necessarily have that, financial education yet, right? So what is your advice to somebody who is a little hesitant about opening a credit card?
I think that establishing a credit is very important. I think if you're new to it, think of your credit card as cash. So if you have the money, use whatever you have in your account as a way to spend, so you can establish your credit history and also be able to pay off your bill every month. I think it's not overextending yourself, making sure that you're saving and also spending very smartly and budgeting yourself as well.
And lastly, once again, can you tell our viewers where they can go to find more information and resources on making the most of credit card rewards and becoming savvy spenders during the holidays?
Of course, you can find all information about budgeting, saving, and also specifically about the Chase Freedom Card at chase.com/freedom.
Awesome. Sherita, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
For more information, you can visit the website at chase.com/freedom. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
We all know what it's like to feel alone. But it just takes one new connection. Want to get out of here? To empower many.
This is unbelievable.
It doesn't take a superhero to bring forces together. We all have the power to reach out.
Let's go!
And help someone feel like they belong.
Pretty cool, huh?
We are stronger together.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Oh, how did I get here?
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back. Lung cancer causes the most cancer deaths in the U.S. Screening is a highly effective way to detect it early when it's most treatable. Sadly, only 6% of eligible patients get screened, leading to preventable deaths. Joining us for more information is the Assistant Professor of General Thoracic Surgery at UC Davis Health, Louis A. Godoy. Thank you so much for joining me
Good
today.
morning, Brittany.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So to start off, can you explain what National Lung Cancer Screening Day is? This is the first I'm hearing of it. And how does it help raise awareness about lung cancer?
Yes, well, as you mentioned, lung cancer is the biggest cancer killer in the United States. Kills more people than prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colon cancer combined. And each year, approximately 130,000 people die from this disease. So that's equivalent as a 747 jetliner crashing each and every single day. So it's an extraordinary amount of people who are dying from this potentially curable disease. National Lung Cancer Screening Day. Actually, this year it coincides with Veterans Day. It's on November the 11th. And it's a day that's supported by the American College of Surgeons, in addition to other organizations, to where we want to increase the awareness for this lung cancer screening tool, which is a low-dose CT scan, to help detect cancer in the early stages when it's easily treatable.
When it comes to lung cancer, as you mentioned, it's a major cause of cancer-related deaths here in the U.S. So can you give an overview of the current situation regarding lung cancer diagnosis and treatment?
Yes. Actually, the number that you mentioned, the 15%
Mhm.
of people actually getting screened, that's in the high performing states. When we look at the national average, it's really only about 6% of patients who qualify for it are actually getting screened. Now, in California, sadly, where I'm at, that screening rate drops down to about 1%. So we definitely have a lot of work to do in order to increase this life-saving tool. Unfortunately, since patients aren't getting screened early on, the majority of lung cancer detected nowadays, so 75% of lung cancer diagnoses are at later stages, where we know that outcomes are not as great as if they were diagnosed in the earlier stages. So we're trying to flip the role by increasing awareness of lung cancer screening to help diagnose people earlier on.
That's really interesting that you mentioned the 15% is in within the high performing states, and then there's this huge gap of 6% and even 1%. Can you tell me what are some reasons for not getting screening? Maybe A, they're not aware that they should be going for screening, maybe they don't qualify or not eligible with insurance, or maybe they're just scared, maybe they're just hesitant to doing so.
Yeah, I have had several patients who have come to my clinic who, just like you mentioned, were scared about what they were going to find.
Mhm.
And so it was at the prompting of their family members that they were suggested that they go ahead and get screened, and they just happened to detect a lung cancer. So the fear is one thing. There's also a social stigma. People see lung cancer as something that's self-inflicted,
Mhm.
related to smoking. But there are other causes of lung cancer that we also know about. Radon gas, for example, is an environmental exposure that can cause lung cancer. Asbestos exposure is another known risk factor as well. So we want to spread the message that lung cancer screening, it really can save lives. It's non-invasive. It's a relatively quick and easy test to get, and to please talk to your doctor if you meet the criteria to get screened, because it can really save your life.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. Who should consider undergoing lung cancer screening?
So the guidelines at this point are anybody who's 50 or older,
Mhm.
either a current smoker or a former smoker, with a 20-pack-year smoking history. Now, the calculation can be a little tricky, so anybody who feels that they kind of meet this criteria should really talk to their doctor so that they can run through the calculations with them to make sure that they qualify for screening. But really, it boils down to 50 or older, current or former smoker should talk to their doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. And now let's talk about smoking, right? And let's kind of remove that stigma around it. And so, can you tell us a little bit about why quitting smoking is important, not just for preventing lung cancer, but your overall health?
Yeah, so smoking we know is the leading cause of lung cancer. But
Mhm.
aside from that, there are other health aspects that it can affect. So it affects all aspects of your body. So we know there's increased risk of cardiovascular disease, increased risk of stroke, increased risk of, for example, wound healing if you go for a general procedure or another operation. Even though you don't have any issues with your lung, you may be at increased risk for infection. So all of these factors are affected by smoking in a negative way. So for anybody who is interested in quitting smoking, there are several resources that are available. Just like we treat lung cancer, we have surgical specialists, we have oncology specialists. There are specialists who help patients quit smoking with the arsenal of resources such as medications, counseling, social support groups. So for anybody who's interested or wanting to have more information, they should really talk to their doctor about getting referrals placed for these.
Yeah, of course. And so your organization, American College of Surgeons, they also assist people in quitting smoking. So can you talk a little bit about the resources? Are the resources available? Some of the same resources that you mentioned. What do you guys offer?
Yeah, so we actually compiled a list of resources that one can go to, and it's at our website. So www.facs.org/lung cancer. And there they will find information on both lung cancer screening and smoking cessation resources as well.
And given your work, can you share a story about somebody who has quit smoking after a cancer diagnosis, and how did it impact them, their treatment, their survival? What was that impact like?
Yeah, we know that smoking is a very, very difficult thing to quit. It not only changes the body physiologically, we know that it's not a matter of willpower, but sometimes it has taken a diagnosis of lung cancer for a patient to open their eyes and say like, wow, this smoking has cost me part of my lung now. And I have had patients who at that point were then motivated to quit smoking and fight that uphill battle. I've have several patients who have been very successful with smoking cessation after a diagnosis. So one of the things I want to emphasize is that it does not matter. It's never too late to quit. Even I've had patients even up until the day of surgery, that smoked and quit on the day of surgery. It's never too late to quit.
100%. And we know that quitting smoking, you kind of alluded to it, it's no easy feat. So can we talk about some of the challenges that smokers may go to when trying to quit?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest challenges that I face with my patients is the ingrained social aspect of smoking. It becomes a social thing where if your friends smoke, you tend to smoke. And even though you're trying to quit smoking, if you go out and go to a party or go to a friend's house and they're smoking, you're more inclined to smoke. I think that's been one of the biggest challenges that some of my patients have faced. When their families are supportive, even though there's another smoker in the family, we have found that people are more inclined to quit smoking when they have a strong support structure.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we wrap up, I just want to thank you for taking the time to educate us today on lung cancer and, the benefits of quitting smoking.
Thank you for the opportunity.
For more information, you can visit their website at facs.org/lung cancer. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu. And especially this year, no one has time to get sick. Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
If you're buzzed and doing this, to make yourself feel okay to drive,
ZWX.
you're not okay to drive.
YGKLVW. Regular you.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kitchen now.
Welcome back. Congestion pricing in New York City is coming soon, with the recent Traffic Mobility Review Board meeting confirming that the new tolling will begin in late spring. Bike New York believes congestion pricing provides a unique opportunity to advance New York City's goals for safe streets by building out more comprehensive biking infrastructure. Joining us to tell us more is the Director of Advocacy at Bike New York, John Orcutt. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's terrific to be here.
So let's get right into it. What is congestion pricing and how will it work in New York City's central business district?
Well, congestion pricing is a policy that was legislated back in 2018 at the state level. And so the MTA is working to implement new tolls where there are free crossings into Manhattan below 60th Street. And also you would implement that charge across the top of the central business district at 60th Street. So basically, today you drive in at the Midtown Tunnel, you pay a big toll. You drive in at the Triborough Bridge, you pay a big toll, but you pay nothing at the Queensboro Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge, for example. And the idea is to equalize that out so that everyone's paying some kind of fee to come into the central business district. And, and the idea is to A, reduce traffic, and B, raise money for MTA improvements so that less people feel the need to drive.
And so what are some of the anticipated benefits of congested pricing in terms of reducing traffic and gridlock in the city? What do those look like?
Well, they all stem from that reduction in traffic, where we've seen major cities like London or Stockholm, Sweden, do congestion pricing. They've seen big reductions in vehicle flows during the weekdays from 20 to 25%. And then you get an additional benefit from that, which is you have street space you could use for other things. And New York has been good over the last 10 years at repurposing streets for a variety of uses and a more fair distribution of space. But, you see today, real big increases in cycling stemming from the pandemic and, and partly related to the growth of the bike network and City Bike. We need more space in some of those bike lanes. The older protected bike lanes in Manhattan, like 1st and 2nd Avenue, 8th and 9th Avenue, they're really crowded now at some parts of the day. And when you throw in e-bikes and the faster speeds that those things move, there's a need for wider bike lanes. The city's responding to that need somewhat now. There's a new bike lane going in on 3rd Avenue and another on 10th Avenue, and those are wider than the ones we've seen. But we need to go back and look at the existing bike lanes that are really serving huge numbers of trips, down through the Manhattan's east side, and leading to the East River bridges. Those are going to be places where more people are going to ride under congestion pricing, and we need to really work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to the expected benefits in terms of promoting sustainable transportation, what does that look like?
Well, it means people who are driving in are more inclined to take the subway or commuter rail, or to think about an e-bike for a medium distance trip, or any kind of bike, or maybe they walk in Manhattan more often than they use motorized transportation because it's nicer with less traffic. And the places we've talked about have pedestrianized some parts of town. They've created public space that used to be occupied by cars. So there's a lot of benefits there. One of the problems with all of this so far is that Mayor Adams isn't really participating in this work. The MTA and Governor Hochul have been moving it along and doing a good job of that, and staying strong on the message, even though this is the kind of thing that always generates complaints and controversy. But the mayor hasn't really joined the battle and stepped up and said, yeah, we're gonna use that freed space for the following things. So in that regard, New York is an outlier because those plans were already well announced at this point. We're likely to see congestion pricing in the spring. We should be hearing about those plans from the city at this point. And it's a little unique to New York because we have transit agency is run, by the MTA and the state, and the streets are run by the mayor and the city.
At the top of this interview, you did mention examples like London and Stockholm. So, drawing examples from them, how have other cities utilized congestion pricing to enhance public transportation and create safer and more bike-friendly streets?
Well, London's a good example. It's another world capital that's a capital of finance, and it's roughly the same size of New York in terms of population. And they have a long history now going back. They did congestion charging in 2003. They completely overhauled their bus system as part of that program, with new bus lanes around the central part of the city and a lot more bus service. And so that really changed the bus system in London and built ridership in a way that we really could use in New York. Our bus system was kind of sliding pretty fast in terms of people abandoning it even before COVID, and it's less still now. But with less cars on the street, the bus should be a great way to get around. We could do more things like the 14th Street Busway, which is probably the best, bus route today in the city because there aren't cars in the way of it. But London also is engaged in a long-term effort to make themselves bike-friendly. And one of the things London does that we don't do as well is they don't paint bike lanes, they just build real bike paths. And, we've done some of that coming after the painted bike lanes, but I wish we were going to more robust construction right away with our bike lanes so that they were harder for cars to park in and people just took it more seriously and it was safer for everybody to use.
And speaking of these bike lanes, let's talk a little bit about how biking landscape has evolved in New York City.
Well, bike lanes were kind of an afterthought and kind of grudgingly offered by the city up until 2007. And then Mayor Bloomberg said, we're going to do a sustainability program for the city. He hired a new transportation commissioner, Jeanette Sadekhan, and she came in and said, all right, let's do this for real. So hundreds of miles of new bike lanes were put in. They were connected to each other, so you could actually stay in the bike lanes on a trip. And protected bike lanes were started then too. And since then, that's expanded and moved on and was then augmented in 2013 by introduction of City Bike, which has also continued to grow. During the de Blasio years, the bike lane network was extended quite a bit. We saw good extension of it into Queens, especially the Bronx to some degree. But we still need to connect up the bike lane network, especially the protected bike lanes, much more so than they are today, so that you can do a trip more safely without really exposing yourself to traffic. That's what will get people who are worried about cycling today to come out and use it. And City Bike also expanded dramatically since it was begun in 2013. It's now one of the biggest systems in the world. The mayor recently announced some changes to City Bike with more e-bikes and even more bikes sort of in the network. But he didn't couch it in terms of congestion pricing, which I thought was a missed opportunity, because having those bikes readily available, having e-bikes that can go a little longer distance for people, that's a great complement to congestion pricing. Why not take credit for that?
Yeah, of course. And so when it comes to developing a comprehensive biking infrastructure, what are some of the current challenges and opportunities?
Well, the challenges are that the protected bike lanes don't often meet up with other protected bike lanes. And the other biggest challenge is that city DOT does a good job with bike lanes, but nobody else in city government really takes it seriously. So we don't enforce, the fact that you're not supposed to park in a bike lane. So, the city doesn't really measure this, but the Hunter College did a study of this in 2019, and they found, for every mile of protected bike lane, you can expect to find it blocked 6 or 7 times. And that's very ubiquitous. That's very chronic. It's a abiding problem. And it still baffles me that city government does all the work to put in bike lanes, goes through all the debates and fights, but then doesn't keep them safe to ride bikes in, the second week that they've been implemented. So I think that's certainly the biggest challenge. There's a lot of very specific stuff we need in terms of network connections. The mayor has been slowing down the bike program recently and, gave a very strange speech at City DOT last week saying, basically, I'm going to reserve the right to interfere with your projects, which, I've never seen before in 35 years of watching this stuff. And there are like very clear things, like the only route from Queens directly into the central business district is the Queensboro Bridge. And there's a lane set aside, one of the, I don't know, like 11 lanes on that bridge is set aside for cycling and walking, but that's only 12 feet for both bikes and pedestrians. And with the bike boom we've seen during COVID and the long-term increase we've been seeing since 2007 in cycling in the city, that thing is really crowded, and we're seeing bad crashes there because of the crowding. Now, the city has a plan to give another lane to pedestrians so you can separate out the bikes and pedestrians, but they really seem in no hurry to finish the work that they're doing elsewhere on the bridge so that we can get that. But again, that would be a perfect complement to congestion pricing, more space for bikes on the Queensboro Bridge, the only route into the central business district from Queens, if you're going to ride a bike. We could do that on other bridges too. The Manhattan Bridge bike lane is very busy, but it's only like 9 feet wide. And there was a horrible crash there a couple of months ago. And the addition of e-bikes and the fact that they go uphill so much faster means that there are real safety issues in these crowded bikeways. And government's first job is public safety. And Eric Adams says he's the public safety mayor. Let's see some action here.
I hear you 100%. So with that, could you tell us a little bit more about Bike New York's mission and how it empowers New Yorkers through bicycling?
Sure. Bike New York is kind of a full spectrum nonprofit that really tries to address every facet of making the city bike friendly. Famously, we put on the 5-borough bike tour every May, and that's a celebration of riding bikes in the city, and it goes back to the 1970s. And it runs from Lower Manhattan up through the central business district into the Bronx, and then doubles back through Queens and Brooklyn to arrive in Staten Island. And that's 40,000 plus people getting to ride in car-free conditions, the kind of thing that gets 40,000 people on bikes. But we use the proceeds from that mainly to operate the country's largest bike education program, whether official government or not. We reach tens of thousands of people with classes on how to ride, how to pick out a bike, how to get kids riding bikes. We do stuff in schools in the same regard. So, we're working to give people those tools so you can ride in traffic and in bike lanes. And we teach people the different kind of environments they're going to encounter when they're on a bike in New York City. But, look, we're facing difficult conditions in the city. Bike fatalities are way up this year. The city isn't really responding to help us. So we can educate people, and my work to help create a bigger bike network, that's all part of it. But it only works if city government is doing their work to make it safe and make it safer, and to really extend that safety and that ability to get out to all corners of town.
Absolutely. John, I want to thank you so much for coming here today and discussing Bike New York and just all the things that we could expect with traffic and transportation this upcoming spring.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
For more information, you can visit their website at bike.newyorkcity and follow them on social media at Bike New York. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast on Optimum Channel 67, Verizon Fios 2133, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You could catch a brand new episode of Open with Rena Valentine on Friday. This wraps up this episode for us. I'm Brittany Aubain. Make sure to keep this channel wide open. Take care.